Okay, and then let's see. We should be live. Yes. Yay!
Yay.
Live.
Hello, Andrea. Hi, Joe.
Live. Perfect. Yes. Good. All right. Oh, and I should probably also retweet. We're live. Bree, will you start by introducing yourself so that I can tweet that we're live?
Sure. Hi, I'm Bree. It's good to see everyone. I do science fiction and fantasy things over at Bree Reads Books. And I also knit things because I like being cozy.
As you should.
I do.
Okay, I will go at this stage. Hello, I am Reija from the channel The Bookfinch, and this is our monthly Stitch and Bitch live stream where we work on our crafts projects, either knitting, sewing, crocheting. Sorry about my cat who is eating on the background. If you are new here, welcome. We usually rotate this show on mine, Bree's, and Rachel's channels each month. I hosted last month, but because of Bree needing some flexibility in the thing, I am taking on hosting duties today. And basically, we are just gonna chat about nerdy things, what we are reading, what we are doing, and all that jazz. So, Rachel, will you go next? Introduce yourself.
My name is Rachel. My channel is Colonati, and that's where I talk about science fiction, fantasy, nonfiction, just pretty much anything that I'm reading. And yeah, that's pretty much my life. I knit and I read books. I should have worn my t-shirt.
You knit and you know things. That's the perfect shirt, though.
I read, I knit, and I know things. That's me in a nutshell.
Yes. Di, will you go next?
Sure. My name's Diana. My channel is Bookish Di, and I mostly read, as a lot of other folks here, mostly read science fiction, fantasy. Although this month I have not really been reading for the last 2 weeks because Mass Effect has consumed my life once again.
Understandably. Has it been every bit as good as I hear?
Yeah, they put in the most work on the first game, which it truly needed, because the first game is very much like, as someone who has played the first game within the last year on PS3, like it was very clunky in its original state. Like it felt 14 years old. But it was great. I finished it yesterday. I finished the game in almost a little over 2 weeks, which for 3 games is absurd, and I never should do that again.
As long as you were enjoying yourself, that's the most important thing.
I was, but also I forgot, because it's been a while since I've really hyper focused on a video game. I forgot what that was like.
The last game I was that hyper focused on was Hades.
Yeah.
And the Good Smile Company just announced that they are going to do a Zagreus figurine. And I'm like, depending on how expensive it is going to be, I have a sneaking suspicion that my shelves might be getting some more plastic in the near future. But before we get too carried away with things, we could talk about what we are currently making. Bree, will you go first?
So in my time when I can do complicated things right now, I am working on the new Caitlin Hunter. I'm test knitting. It's a lovely scalloped, short-sleeved top, but that requires me to pay attention to what I'm doing. So I currently have one sock finished of a different project, and I am almost like halfway-ish through the other sock. I have 15 rows and then a toe to do. So I think that's like super manageable.
You'll get it done today.
Yeah, basically. I'm trying not to let it languish in my whip pile.
Yeah, that's always like I have like I was earlier, because I made my like new computer and stuff. I had to reorganize everything on my tables, and now all my knitting projects are sitting in this little plastic bin, and it's like a bin of shame. I should just put a Dymo on it that says bin of shame.
Well, you should figure out a reward for yourself for everything that you finish.
That is also true.
Yeah, the other thing that I have in a big project bag is the Extravaganza blanket by Stephen West, but that is a gigantic colorwork project that is going to take a little bit more time than either of these two.
Yeah.
I'm on the verge of becoming obsessed with knitting a Stephen West pattern. Like I'm going to take the plunge.
You got to do it,
and I will fall into it, and I will never get out.
For those of you who are not big knitters, Stephen West makes these patterns that change texture and color a lot. They're kind of like the scrap bag friendly, ADHD brain friendly patterns out there, and they vary between gorgeous and what is going on.
What's the name again? Because that sounds something that I would be very interested in.
Stephen West.
Yeah, just look up West Knits on Instagram.
Mm-hmm. West Knits.
Yeah, he does lots and lots of huge shawls, which is like my favorite thing.
Yes, I will definitely be looking into that. Rachel, what are you making?
I have returned to working on my Handsome Chris pullover. And if you see me looking over here all the time, it's because I finally made myself a master chart, and I have to look at it like every 5 seconds because there are like 4 different types of cables in this, and I'm trying to keep track of all the repeats. So yeah, this is the really famous sweater from Knives Out that some very kind, intelligent person reverse engineered. So there's a free pattern for it on Ravelry now, and it's just nothing but cables. What have I gotten myself into?
But is it like difficult cables or like semi understandable cables?
None of it is very difficult. It's just that it's all happening at the same time. So it's a lot of like 3/3, 2/2 cables.
Mm-hmm. I'm really excited to see what it looks like when you're finished.
Yeah, your next like
will it fit?
what I made video. I am looking forward to those.
Is it bottom up?
It is, yeah. And I'm doing it in the round,
right,
rather than in pieces. Because I was like, there's no way that if I do one panel, if I do like the front panel, I will give up if I have to do the whole thing over again with the back panel. So I got to do it at the same time.
Yeah.
And this way there's less seaming.
Yeah.
Di, what are you making?
So I'm in the middle of a row, so it's like not gonna hang right, but I'm still working on that mystery knit shawl that I was doing with my mom. So I'm on the final.
I love it
now. So it like has some mosaic knitting here, which I do really love. It has just basic like basket weave here, and now the part that I'm on, I'm trying to see if I can show it. It's not showing up very well, but it has some very basic lace work. So it's just, for folks who know, it's just yarn over and CCD, which is, I can never remember what it means. It's like central double or CDD, central double decrease.
I don't know what a central double decrease is actually. So.
It kind of makes like a little triangle out of 3 stitches as opposed to like if you
Yeah.
put together, it creates a slant in one way or the other.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it basically gets rid of 2 stitches instead of 1.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's you slip 2 stitches from your left needle to your right needle, knit 1, and then slip those 2 stitches back over the knitted stitch. But yeah, so I'm getting towards the end. I'm at part 3, and I was saying before stream that I'm currently playing a bit of Yarn Chicken to see if I can finish this row. I think I will finish it, and then I'm not going to bother trying to play Yarn Chicken with this again because that would be tempting fate a little too much.
I always lose. I always lose Yarn Chicken. It is always the worst.
But I still...
I am wishing you all of the best in the Yarn Chicken endeavors.
I still have to do the sleeves for the sweater that I had been working on. I've just kind of been avoiding it because adding sleeves intimidates me. But I think I might try and do that soon just so I can finish that project. And then I still technically haven't finished the hat that we did, the Time Vortex hat. I still haven't done it. But I do have yarn now to stitch over the numbers because the yarn that I've been using for this is DK. So I can either use the purple or this blue because I'll have enough yarn for both of that.
Mhm.
I just need to see which one looks better.
Thank God. I have enough like stitches. I don't have too many or too little. So I am currently crocheting an amigurumi. I made this little bumblebee guy earlier as a test run, and now I'm using like 1.5 hook size bigger hook on the same thread, but I'm trying to see if I can make a little bit of a bigger bee, because the tutorial I was following, the bee was almost like palm sized, and this is like a teeny tiny bee.
Was it made with like worsted weight yarn? That would make it much bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, also it was made with like a 3.5 hook size.
Yeah.
And this was made with 2.5. So it was teeny tiny.
Different yarn weights, probably.
Mm. Also, hello everyone. Hello Joe, hello Andrea, hello Becca, hello everyone. Hello, hello.
Hello, everybody.
Also, bees are incredibly like apt for the springtime.
Yeah.
More bees.
I'm almost sad actually because I haven't seen a lot of bees, especially like honeybees this year. I think it's probably because we had a cold snap after it got warm, which makes me sad. But
I hear bees. So right outside my bedroom window, there's a plant that has like these big, I don't know what it is because I'm in an apartment complex, but there's a plant that has flowers, and a lot of times in the morning I'll wake up and I hear all the bzzz. So I'm like, oh, good morning, bees. Please stay on that side of the screen.
I have seen a few, but mostly I have started seeing wasps. And I'm like,
yeah.
no, I don't. And I don't know, do you have them?
They're just evil.
Do you have them in the United States, those kind of bees who basically like nest in the ground, like in these like kind of sandbars and stuff, and then if you are walking and you accidentally put your foot in the wrong place, you are stepping into a nest.
Yeah,
and then it's horrible. It's horrible. Ugh. Absolutely dreadful.
I see that we need to get Andrea on the knitting train.
I mean, Andrea, if knitting is something that intimidates you, try crocheting. I have found it incredibly helpful and easy to follow. So yeah, Becca asks, are any of you guys having the cicada swarm yet?
Yeah.
We don't have cicadas in Finland, so
Yeah,
I'm lucky and can say no.
I'm on the wrong coast for cicadas. My friends who live in DC haven't. So one person I know has seen them, but other friends of mine who lived in DC, it's like I've talked about nothing but cicadas, but I've yet to see one.
Yeah, I have some friends in Alabama and kind of the South who have started to see them. I'm up north in like the northern Midwest, and so we won't be getting them. I would have to drive a couple of hours, which I've thought about doing.
I would be too scared. I mean, we have cicadas here every year, but we don't have the big what do you call them? The major groups that they track aren't located here, so we don't get those like 17-year cycles here. But we have cicadas every year. It's very loud. I will never forget when we were at Worldcon. Do you remember this, Bree? When we were at the Kansas City Worldcon, and Brock was with us. He come down from Canada, and he said that when he landed in Kansas City, he was walking around the city, and he was trying to figure out what he was hearing because it's all synchronized, and he was like walking up to light posts and stuff like, is that a sound that they're putting out or something? He never heard cicadas before. And
I had that happen
what are you talking about? What sound are you talking about?
I had that happen when I went to Japan the first time, and because I went in the summer and everywhere was cicadas, and they have like at least 3 different like types, and they all make like different sounds. And I was like constantly like, what is this? What is this thrumming? What is this?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind.
Like the noisiest bugs we have in Finland are mosquitoes, and they are annoying.
Oh, mosquitoes are terrible.
Oh yeah.
Cicadas are like I wouldn't go near like a live cicada, but finding their shed skins on tree bark and stuff, it's always fun.
Can we talk,
aliens?
Can we talk about the fungus that's eating their butts?
Yes.
What?
There's a fungus that it looks like a little white, like 3rd grade eraser, the back that's really crappy on the back of a pencil. And apparently it's a fungus that like has like eaten parts of their like bottom torso or whatever.
Oh, there's cicadas.
No, it gets crazier. It gets crazier because part of what it's doing for them is it's like infusing psilocybin into their bodies, which is the same drug as in like mushrooms. And so they're having like they're high and they're having these like hallucinogenic sex experiences.
Oh my god!
They like spread it, and then their butts fall off.
Okay, you came here for knitting and stuff, and now I have. Wow!
Parasitic cicada fungus. Okay.
Sorry, I just needed to share so that I'm not like the only one still just being like, what in the world is going on?
I mean, the world is a very complex place, it seems. Every time I hear something, like every day I learn something new. Oh, Andrea, you are the best. Cicadas, the hippies of the animal world. So what is everybody reading? I think I might go first because I have basically just been binging the Vampire Knitting Club audiobooks. I have now listened to 5 of them, and it's basically been my way of coping this past week with everything that has been going on. I've just been crocheting and listening to Vampire Knitting Club audiobooks. It's just like Rachel, you described it perfectly with like that it is just like brain candy, and that's what it is. I just feel like it's like eating marshmallows. I don't even necessarily like marshmallows, but the feeling of roasted marshmallows, but it's just like that feeling, but in my brain. Like it's so cozy and nice.
I listened to number 6 in the series yesterday. Thank you, by the way. Right?
I mean, thank you. My script subscription just let me know that I will be billed in July the next. So I'm like, thank you.
Heads up to anybody who wants to listen to the series on audiobook. Almost the entire series is available on Scribd, and it's on Overdrive too. But anyway, I was being blockaded by a bunch of people having holds on the next ones on Overdrive, and I was like, I need to get ahead of the pack, so I switched to Scribd. Thanks to Rhea. But
yeah, how dare they be putting holds on a series that you want to read?
Why should I be waiting 4 weeks for a 5-hour audiobook?
Exactly.
It's a scam so that you'll buy them.
No, it's put out by Amazon. I'm not going to give them my money.
That's the spirit.
You know how hard it is to try to go an entire year without buying anything from Amazon or an Amazon-owned company?
It's really hard.
I had to break my rule
hard.
to get. I had two ebooks I wanted to get. One was Andy C. Buchanan's stuff, and they only have it on Kindle, so I had to buy it from there. And then Lois McMaster Bujold's latest Penric novel, and I'm like, just
that's the one I was going to say.
Sell it on waitlist.
Is that also only Kindle
for now?
Or Nook, I think, but I only have a Kindle.
Okay.
And so I know like people who are smarter with ebook formats can probably like download it anywhere and hack it and put it somewhere.
You should come over in January. By then they'll have it physical and we can go get signed copies with Lois.
God, yes. Next time I am in a good SFF bookstore, I'm going to buy the Bane omnibus versions of the Penric novellas. Yes, I will own them in 2 different formats, and it'll be great.
I have them signed, and they're gorgeous. I'm just saying.
I mean, I have like, okay, so now I have switched from like Book Depository to Adlibris, which is like, it's a Nordic sort of book buying service thing. It's basically it's in all the Nordic countries, and I've started buying from them, but also the books are more expensive that way, and I'm just like middle fingering Amazon, like, how dare you? You are like putting down all the prices because you own everything, and now a regular priced book seems expensive to me. Like, how dare you?
I am actually like legit mad at Amazon for artificially pushing down prices on everything and training people to think that cheap prices are normal. It's like, no.
it is. Also, I am mad at Amazon for basically making it so that pretty much everyone has to be on Amazon. Either they need to have an Amazon store, or they need to have like Amazon Web Services as their like marketing and server tools, which means that Amazon gets data on every single purchase ever, even if it isn't on Amazon like owned websites, because people are using Amazon Web Services, and then they look at that data and look at the products, and they make dupes of those products by other people and sell them for cheaper. And
can I also say that the recommendations that they give me, considering that they've had my Goodreads information and they know everything I buy in the whole world, not good recommendations. They're like half things I've already read, or that like I very clearly will not read from that person. Like, I've been ignoring your suggestions on this person for 5 years. What you doing, Amazon? Think I'm going to break now?
I mean, I suspect that the only reason why Goodreads is having that new beta where they're trying to like update the site is because of things like Bookler and Storygraph are taking all, like, people are just migrating to those sites.
I really like the Storygraph. I think that, and I don't remember who the woman is developing it, but I think she's done a really good job of like with the book recommendations. And I also just really like the information it shows you with the books. Like, it's less concerned about like showing you what everyone is saying about the book and more concerned with like these are like what the themes people are saying, like, you know, it's adventurous, it's romantic, it's slow paced, and these are all the like I love the fact that it includes content warnings.
Yes.
Like
I also feel like even like you can write a very detailed review, but I also like the fact that I can just choose that it is adventurous, lighthearted, etc., and then like put content warnings, and I don't feel the need to write an extensive review necessarily. I can do that if I want to, but also like. Whereas with Goodreads is that if I just put a star rating, no one knows anything about what I've been thinking about it.
I won Yarn Chicken.
No.
Success! So I mean, I maybe could have gone another row, but I figure I won it once. I don't need to tempt it. And I still have this whole cake of yarn.
Nice. Yeah. So who's next?
I want to go back and talk about the 6th Vampire Knitting Club book because we were talking about Stephen West a moment ago. So there's a designer who's mentioned in the series, Teddy Lamont. He's mentioned a couple of times, and he shows up in the one that I'm just now reading, number 7. He was mentioned in 6. He's in 7 now. I am absolutely convinced that this character is based on Stephen West or Stephen B.
Rachel, like, have I taken you to Stephen B?
Huh?
Have I taken you to Stephen B?
No, he's based in the Twin Cities.
He is just exactly who the internet says he is.
Yeah, like crazy, colorful, out there designers, and everything. I'm like. This is literally Stephen B. or Stephen West put in this book. Like, if it's not, then how did Nancy Warren know?
I mean, I also laughed at was it the 3rd book when there's the fantasy author like thing where they're trying to figure out if there's this author who has basically made his whole career by plagiarizing. And that author's name is Sanderson, like Dominic Sanderson.
Oh my God,
I'm like, I was constantly like, I know that she just chose a name, but also like...
Maybe there's a subtweet there.
Because also like there's like one of the biggest names in fantasy right now is Sanderson. And this is the biggest name in fantasy right now, Dominic Sanderson. And I was like, my mind was just reeling, like, what? Every time his name was said, I'm just like, I can't, because my mind just went to Brandon Sanderson.
Did I tell you that when we were in Dublin, there was a point when I went to one of the local bookstores alone, and some lady came in asking for recommendations for like new sci-fi and fantasy to read. And the guy was like, well, there's this new up and coming author, Brandon Sanderson. And I wanted to be like, oh my God, shut up. No, tell me 4 books you like and I will give you the right book for you. I didn't interrupt because it would be rude, but it felt like
sure, you can like recommend Sanderson for someone, sure. But also an up and coming writer is very much not a thing that he is. He's very much an establishment.
Yeah. And that was the part that made me like hurt.
Like, if you want up and comer, like that would be like Ara Huang or like anyone,
like a Rowan Horse or
like anyone who is currently nominated for the Astounding Award. Like, up and comer is not. I've published 1 billion books and closed out the Wheel of Time because of author existence failure.
I mean, exactly, Angela. Exactly. Like, Sanderson fans are also like, up and coming.
He's not new because you just found him.
Exactly. That's like saying that there's this author called Roger Zelazny, and he's like a complete newbie to the genre. Like, no, stop it. Get some help.
Yeah, it was
What-
definitely
okay,
the characterization of him as up and coming that I was like, no.
I don't talk about my personal life or my reading that much with my coworkers, but there was this one great day where I was having a conversation with this guy that I work with, and we got to talking about books, and he was like, maybe you would like something by Roger Zelazny. And I said,
Haven't you read the entire?
I've read more
Amber
Roger
Chronicles?
Zelazny than you have. Don't come at me and say, oh, I've just read the 5 or whatever Corwin novels. I'm like, I've read the whole series. I've read his other books. I read his collected short fiction.
Oh, someone said for up and coming P. Jelly Clark.
I would say that, like, because he, like, in terms of like short fiction, P. Jelly Clark is like pretty established, but also like I think that like more people read like full-length novels, I should think, than read short fiction.
Yeah, I think his first writing credit, like short story credit, was 2011.
Yeah.
So he's been published for a good 10 years.
Yeah.
I also recently found out that he's also a historian when he's not writing books. And I will say that explains so much about his attention to detail when it comes to like his like setting things in like these alternative histories. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, that explains a lot about like how he approaches world building and how he thinks it, like you're saying, how he thinks about his alternate histories. Like that's kind of why I don't, for the most part, don't like alternate histories, because a lot of times it just feels so lazy. It's like, what if there were airships, and it doesn't really think about the like more large term implications. I don't know. That's why I like Clark. That's why I like Kate Elliott's Spirit Walker trilogy, because that one was like, there were so many divergent points, and it wasn't just like, it's England, but it's the Ice Age. It was like, no, like these are all the different ways that history would have changed had there been these divergent points.
Yeah. And give me an alternate history that doesn't hinge on the world wars, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like an alternative history where, you know, maybe world wars could have, like how world wars could have been avoided and what would have been the other thing. Like if you think about it, like for example, World War II coincided with the economic crash and stuff.
World War I could have been avoided had we just killed off all the monarchies in the 1800s.
I mean, you're not wrong. But also, like the Brits are still like trying to hold on to their former glory as an empire. So, like, no, I don't want to let go.
So, Bree, what are you reading?
I have right now. So I just finished For Profound Weaves, and
Did you love it? Did you love it?
It's very good. And then I am now reading Unnatural Magic. I think that actually came up in the last.
Is that the C.M. Wagner one?
Yeah, it's a C.M.
I
Wagner.
love that one. I actually think I need to buy a physical copy of that because I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, I am not far in yet, but I can tell it's going to be one that I enjoy. And then after that, I have the Bone Houses on my to read, but we'll see when I get there.
I have a physical copy now of the Four Profound Weaves, and I want to read it soon.
That's another one I do need to get a physical copy of, just because like that was honestly one of the even though I read it in January, it's like one of the highlights of my reading year. So beautifully written.
I mean, just looking at the cover gives me joy.
It's just, I think it also helped because it's a very hopeful, like the characters go through, like it's very challenging. It can get dark, but it ends on such a hopeful note. And I read it just as like the transition from Trump to Biden was happening. And not to say Biden and his administration is perfect, but like that kind of we've had 4 dark years and there is kind of a glimmer of hope on the horizon just like really resonated with me.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Oy
Or
vey.
if you can hear children screaming, there are 4 small boys outside now.
I'm sorry, Rachel.
Happy Memorial Day weekend.
Woo! I had a great beginning of my day. I went out to cemeteries. It was very quiet.
I made a ketogenic pizza earlier
Ooh.
because I'm trying to like test out a sort of gluten-free diet, or mostly gluten-free diet, because of all the joint inflammation I've been having. And replacing wheat with like almond flour, it was good. It was surprisingly good. I was like, you put in like mozzarella, almond flour, some baking powder, and like an egg, and then mix it together, and you have the dough, and then you heat it in the oven like for like 10 minutes, and then put on the toppings, and then put it in the oven again for like 5 minutes. And it's so delicious. So delicious. Like, that's another thing I've been reading, like keto-based cookbooks.
Luke, no, don't leave. I'm trying to get it out.
What have you been reading, Di?
Well, as I said before, I have not really been reading a whole lot the last couple of weeks. But before that, so I finally read a romance novel, and it was so disappointing. I disliked it so much. It was A Sweet Mess by J.C. Lee, and I had been interested in it because it was like, oh, it's a baking romance, and Daniel Day Kim is attached to film adaptation. I'm like, okay, that sounds good. And one, I think I was like too ace for the fact that like it goes from like, oh, you're hot, and they're like super horny for each other all the time, but then there's like no sex scenes. And I feel like it's like, for the amount that the characters are horny for each other, there should be like actual sex scenes and not like fade to black. Like, I'm not saying that romance novels need to have sex scenes, but for me, at least, the way that it was written versus the actual content, there was a dissonance. And then also, like, the characters their lives seem so empty, and it was annoying because it had such a promising start where we meet the female lead and her best friend who owns a brewery, but then they're like not near each other for most of it. And then the main thing that annoyed me, and I'm going to spoil this book, don't jump that way, is the fact that there's we hooked up once, now I'm pregnant, and it's nowhere in the copy to let you know that it's going to be happening.
Okay, here's the thing, like, maybe it's just because I have like a personal like icky factor when it comes to like all things related to like pregnancy and like childbearing, but that's one of my most hated tropes, is the like sort of immaculate conception of romance novels where like one thrust and suddenly you're with a baby.
Well, so like the thing, so
seriously,
that annoys me less, just because like in my family there's we weren't trying to get pregnant, but here's a baby.
It can happen, yeah.
Yeah, and so like for me, I'm less weirded out by that, and I'm more annoyed with the fact that it was nowhere in the cover copy, because like there's a book by Avery Flynn, her hockey series at some point I do want to read, and it like tells you up front there was a hookup, there is now a baby, and a big part of the book is them trying to navigate that fact. But with this, it was like, I guess, supposed to be a twist, but it was like, I was like a third of the way through, and I'm like, oh, she's pregnant. Like, that's why she's so tired.
That's not a twist. It's romance. That's a content warning.
Yeah, and
wasn't that the whole plot of Changeless by Cale Carriger? And then
that was kind of the reason I deeply disliked that series. Anyway, but for Sweet Mess, I do not recommend it. And then the other thing that I read that I actually really enjoyed was a nonfiction book. It was called Missing from the Village. It's about, it's by a journalist, Justin Ling, and it's about, so a couple years ago, there was a serial killer who had been targeting marginalized men in Toronto's gay village, Bruce McArthur. And so the book is not about him, but it's about the missing men. It's about the impact that the space that they left had on the community. And it's also an exploration of the history of Toronto's gay village and the queer community and the interactions between the queer community and the police. And it was actually it was a very, very well written book. And I really appreciate the fact that the author just didn't care about the kill. He talks about Bruce McArthur to the minimum extent that he needed to discuss it, but he was much more focused on giving voice to the missing men, the missing and murdered men, and just kind of tying it into the larger conversation about what happens to marginalized people in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very heavy book, but it was also really well written.
What's the title again and the author?
Missing from the Village by Justin Ling. So I'd actually been familiar with Justin Ling's work because there's a CBC podcast series called Uncover, and they do different topics each season. So the first season was about that sex cult NXIVM. The second season was about when an airplane exploded. And so the third season was called The Village, and it wasn't focused on Bruce McArthur per se, but it was focused on the cold cases that Bruce McArthur's arrest had led to Toronto PD reopening. And it was, again, kind of that exploration of the history of Toronto's gay village, the history of their interactions with the police, and also what happens with a cold case. So I listened to that on audiobook, and it was really, really well done.
Rhea, is that another bee?
Yes.
Are you going to make an adorable little beehive?
I mean, I want to make these little ones with different kinds of faces, and then these mid-sized ones, and then there's a pattern for this big huge bee. I just want to make a whole bedspread of bees.
A whole bedspread?
I don't know. I just
you could do one of those hanging things.
Like a mobile kind of thing?
Yeah, like a mobile.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
I also I saw these flower amigurumis too, so I might do bees and flowers hanging together.
That's cute.
So I'm doing that, and I'm also listening to the audiobook for Dial A for Aunties, which I'm not super far into, but I'm enjoying it. And the audiobook is very I really am enjoying the narrator for the audiobook. It's very telenovela-esque. And it's very kind of heightened reality in the way that telenovelas are, which again I appreciate, because I was reading a review and someone was like, this is more of farcical heightened reality, it's not super realistic. And so I'm glad I knew that going in.
I think since I have tomorrow still, I might want to finish How to Lose Democracy in 7 Steps by Ece Temelkuran, which I have been reading on and off for the entire month now, because it's a heavy topic. But then again, I might also just go back to knitting vampires.
I approve that plan.
I will say though, there is a vampire in those books who doesn't knit all that much. And I find it very, I would like that character more if he spent more time knitting and less time stalking the main character.
Excuse me.
I have feelings on this too. The weird thing about the Vampire Knitting Club is that the main character of the series is an absolute terrible knitter.
Yeah.
So I think the tall, dark, and sexy, handsome man would actually be more of a knitter if it mattered to the main character, but she doesn't care that much.
But I care. I care.
I know.
Also, I find it hilarious, like that the core running theme of those books is that she's a terrible knitter, and also that she keeps losing her assistants that are actual good knitters and are helping her at the yarn store.
Or she hires somebody like Violet, who is the worst influence and has terrible judgment.
Yes. But also, I feel like in the last couple books, Violet has been the one to instigate most of the plot.
Because she has terrible judgment.
Someone has to have terrible judgment for the murders to happen, hey?
Okay, if Lucy did the same things that Violet did, Margaret would be like, we're going to revoke your witch credentials. But because it's Violet, everyone's like, you're going to be a good influence on Lucy and get her to practice spells. And I'm like, no.
Say the name of the actual series name again.
Okay, it's the Vampire Knitting Club. I will put it in the chat.
By Nancy Warren, who is a Canadian author.
Not to distract from your love of the Vampire Knitting Club, we
distract all the while.
We just got the Pokemon Snap, the new Pokemon Snap on Switch.
Yeah.
And have been playing it in the mornings, like this weekend, when there's like nothing to do in the morning. So it's like lazy Pokemon time. And I am just forever frustrated at how much the Pokemon Company gives you seeds of good stories and then has games without stories. So like, so they're like, one of it is like, there was this explorer, Captain Vince, and he got lost and wound up on this island and found all of these cool new Pokemon. But instead of like playing as him or finding some sort of mystery related to him, you're just on the island taking pictures of things he saw once. Like, sorry, this has been on my mind, weighing heavy on my heart, and I just needed to share.
You just want Pokemon archaeology.
Well, I want some sort of story. Like, okay, that's cool. He did this 100 years ago. Can we like do like a set, historical piece, right? Where we're building out his journal or something? I don't know. Just
do you know what I would
and I will come up with any kind of plot for you. Like,
I would love like a thing where we had a Pokemon game that went back to like a few thousand years, so we could see like how the Pokemon were before, like how like their pre-evolved forms before the modern times. Nintendo is never gonna give us that.
No, they've hit their formula for something that they're comfy with, that consistently sounds well, and they're not innovating afterwards. Pokemon on my list.
I mean, I'm waiting for the one Zelda no Zelda fan ever wants to play, which is Skyward Sword, which is getting re-released on the Switch. And I have the game on the Wii, which I never managed to play to its completion. And now I'm thinking that I might buy the Switch version so that I may finally finish playing it.
So I'm going to actually hop off. This is part of why Rhea was lovely in letting me be flexible, because I have some other stuff I have to do. But I will check back in by watching the rest of the feed later. So thank you guys for letting me be here.
Always.
Yep.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So now that Bree has left us with the titillating thoughts on Pokemon Snap, any other media things we might want to talk about?
We have to talk about Shadow and Bone.
I haven't seen it yet.
Well,
We have to avoid spoilers, aren't we?
yeah, we can avoid spoilers. I am pretty good at avoiding spoilers, I think. But
We can talk about it in general.
I mean, I do plan on seeing it. It's just I wanted to finish reading the first book first, or the first book before I watched it, and I stalled out when the Darkling kisses Alina, and like I know they're not endgame, but I'm just like, you are a centuries-old man, and you are being a creep, sir.
I am genuinely curious about what they're going to be doing with the Darkling character in the TV show, because I was reading up a little bit on what Leigh Bardugo was talking about, how they were adapting it and kind of the free reign they have with it. And I think she kind of made a comment about how the show might end up being a little bit of fan fiction of the original books.
Yeah.
And they may use that flexibility to go in a different direction with some of the characters. And I mean, they're already kind of doing that with bringing in the Crow characters and building this whole like event that happens before the core series does, which I have thoughts on, but
I mean, I have very much thoughts about that as well, because not going into spoilers, but the whole idea is that the Grisha trilogy, which Shadow and Bone basically is mostly adapting, and the Six of Crows duology are basically pretty separate, and they are on a separate time frame. Six of Crows, I think, takes place about a couple of years after the end of the Grisha trilogy. And in the first season, they have brought in the Six of Crows characters into the story arc of the original Grisha trilogy. What this has ended up doing is that the Six of Crows characters end up coming across as kind of incompetent, because they can't have them interacting with the main cast.
Yeah, they're given a task to do, and they cannot accomplish said task because it would ruin the continuity of the other storyline.
Yeah.
So it's a pointless storyline. They just kind of run in a big circle. They meet some people, but it's very ephemeral. I mean, the one good thing out of it, though, is that we get Jesper, and he's possibly the best character in the entire TV show.
He is. I love it. I sincerely hope that actor gets all of the things and all of the roles,
He's really good.
Gets cast in everything, because he was so charming. Even when Jesper was being annoying, that actor just talk about getting the assignment right. He was just a joy.
Yes. Yeah, I will continue watching the show whenever season 2 is out, because I'm curious about what's going to happen with him and with Alina. Yeah. And if they want to rewrite the entire world and bring these two characters together so they have the same storyline, I'm there for it.
I mean, to be honest, Rachel, we probably are the least likely people to care, since we are not going to read the actual book.
Yeah, to be clear to people who are watching us, I have never read the books, and I have no intention of reading the books. I will just watch the TV show.
And I have only read the Six of Crows duology, and I have no intention of reading anything else.
I read the Crows duology, and I really enjoyed it because it is a bunch of tropes that I love. It has found families, it has heists, it has competency porn, and it's all the things that I love, and I really enjoy. What are you two doing? Sorry,
kitties.
They have the devil in them right now. But yeah, I have not really been watching TV aside from The Bad Batch, which I'm behind on again, which I'm enjoying more than I thought I would, because I did not really the episodes where the Bad Batch were introduced in the final season of the Clone Wars were okay, but they weren't great. And I was I was on the fence about it, but they introduced this character, Omega, who is perfect and precious. And I that the gif from Brooklyn Nine-Nine where Rose is like, I've only had Arlo for a day and a half, but if anything ever happened to him, I'd kill everyone in this room than myself. That's how I feel about Omega. She is tiny and precious and must be protected.
I mean, that sounds like, is this another like Star Wars?
Oh yeah, it's Star Wars. And it's very much a direct sequel to Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Like, it's picking up I was talking with KJ about it and from Lady Business, and because she was like asking about it because she's been watching The Mandalorian, and it's like it's hard for me to recommend it for someone who hasn't seen The Clone Wars because so much of it is tied to that. Like, the characters you meet are like the Bad Batch, they're introduced in The Clone Wars. There's a lot of plot threads, like the transition from the Republic to the Empire, and like side characters that you meet there. It's like very continuity heavy, which I think is a problem that Star Wars has kind of run into, especially with stuff with Dave Filoni, because Dave Filoni like doesn't know how to write things that are standalone anymore. Anyway, I have a lot of thoughts about Dave Filoni, and not all of them are positive.
Isn't that the case with every single creator ever?
Well, for me, it's kind of frustrating because everyone's like, "Oh my God, Dave Filoni is so great. He does so much. He does so many good things. He should be in charge instead of Kathleen Kennedy." And it's like, Dave Filoni has his favorite tropes, and like, I'm not saying that they're bad, but like, you can like, there are things that are evident throughout everything he does. He's not a good live action director, and while I love Ahsoka with all my heart, he doesn't always do a great job with female characters. Yeah. So I've been watching that. I've been playing Mass Effect, obviously, and I started playing Stardew Valley, which has been very soothing.
Stardew Valley is, from what I hear, incredibly like a time sink. Essentially, when you start Stardew Valley, and then you will never climb out of that hole again.
Yeah. Well, one thing I like about it is, and the reason I actually like it more, because it's similar to Animal Crossing, but the reason I like it more is Animal Crossing, I felt the pressure to play every single day, and it made it not as enjoyable for me. Whereas with Stardew Valley, I can like go days without playing it because it has in-universe game time versus that isn't synced with our real world time. And then also I can listen to audiobooks while playing it, just because there's like not really any sound with the game. So I can listen to audiobooks or podcasts while playing that. So I feel like I'm doing like multiple things.
Yeah. I mean, I'm currently running into that issue with like Animal Crossing, is that I haven't played in like, I didn't play for like 3 months. And then I went back and played for like a couple of weeks, and now I haven't played again for like, I want to say like a month. And every time I get into this break, I get super guilty because I just know that cockroaches are like taking over my house, and my neighbors are forgetting where I am. And then when I come back, and they are all like frightened and like anxious up to see me, like, where have you been? And it makes me feel so anxious about the whole experience. Like, I'm sorry I took 3 weeks away. I am so sorry.
Yeah, that's kind of like, that's what I was saying. That's why I haven't played Animal Crossing since August, and I just feel that like stress and everything. And when I do play, it's like, I don't like that. I feel like I have to play like every day, that I have to, log in at certain times, like catch certain fish or things like that.
That sounds so stressful. I mean, I have a hard enough time remembering to do my Duolingo lesson every day, and that stresses me out.
I mean, it's super fun at the beginning, but then when you like, at some point, like, here's the thing: in the early days of the Pandora box, I was very much enjoying the experience because it was a way to like meet up with friends and do things together and stuff. And now it's it's become a chore, which is
Yeah.
not great.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. So I think if you like kind of the farming sim aspect or like the fishing stuff with Animal Crossing, then Stardew works well. And like I was saying, you can take breaks. Like I basically did not play it for 2 weeks because Mass Effect consumed my life. And then I came back and I just picked up where I left off and like kept farming and kept fishing and kept battling monsters.
I feel like there's another game that's currently in like, I think it's in alpha, but it's like from an Indonesian game developer, and it's called Coral Island, and it's basically kind of like a mix between Stardew Valley and Animal Crossing, but with heavy emphasis on like Indonesian culture.
That actually sounds
And yeah, and it looks so cute, and also like you can date so many different characters in that game.
Yeah, that's the other thing with Stardew Valley is there is like a dating romance mechanic. So you have to earn friendship, and they like mark characters who are single, and you can like I haven't gone to this point yet because I've been more focused on like building up my farm and making sure it's profitable, and you know fixing the community center and saving it from the evil Amazon XP, but. Yeah, so the developer of Stardew Valley is from Seattle, and like there's very much a entity that is Amazon with the serial numbers filed off. Anyway,
Commentary.
Yeah, and it's like very blatantly evil. Like you can work with them, but that means like destroying the soul of the town.
Oh.
There is a fair bit of Stardew Valley fans in the audience.
Mm-hmm.
My problem with Stardew Valley is that the game mechanics and everything, like cool, but the aesthetic, like I don't know why, but it's just like there's so many like pixel art games out that I just like. I've been inundated with so much pixel art that it doesn't grab my attention anymore. So I just don't find it aesthetically as pleasing as some other games. But
That's fair.
My goal, because I just before our live, I watched the state of play release of Horizon Forbidden West, and I'm like, I need it in my life.
Oh, I'm so excited for that. It looks so pretty.
It looks so good. And then after that state of play, I watched. I follow this channel called Random Side Quest, who basically his entire channel is just about explaining Horizon Zero Dawn lore and stuff, and he went through the entire state of play video and talked about all the Easter eggs and all the new things that are like going on, and I'm like, I'm pumped. I need the game. I want it now.
I'm so excited to explore ruined San Francisco, and I think ruined LA based on what the map was showing. Like someone was saying,
there's also like ruined San Jose. Like some areas in the game are like in San Jose, because they showed like bunch of like screenshots with like the coordinates of where the game area is located in like our current era.
Yeah, that one I'm really looking forward to. I'm glad that they're making it PS4 compatible, because buying a PS5 is like absurd.
Yeah.
It's so hard to get right now.
Yeah, I'm very happy if it's really going to be PS4 compatible, because seriously, I need that game, but I also don't want to like shill out like 600 euros to get like a PS5 if ever I'm going to even get one.
I mean, I do plan on eventually getting one, but like it's not a super high priority for me, especially because the game that I'm looking forward to the most that I was worried about that would be a PS5 exclusive is Horizon Forbidden West. So I'm just kind of like, as long as my PS4 is still running and as long as I still have space on the external hard drive that I'm using to store all my games, then I'm just going to keep using it and then like knit during the slow load times.
Basically same. I mean, I just want to see my favorite asshole Silence again.
Oh yeah. So this is kind of a spoiler. We're sorry, but like at some point when they're like, the rebels are controlling the machines, and I'm like, I wonder who could have given them that ability.
Yeah. Like, I do wonder. Plus, I mean, he clearly has a big role to play, just based on the end of Horizon Zero Dawn. No spoilers.
Yeah.
And also the first trailer that we saw. Like he's gonna be like I have a feeling that Silence won't be like a major antagonist or anything, but he will certainly be like he will do something. He will do something.
Yeah, for me, Silence, like you're saying, Silence isn't an antagonist, but he is. He's someone he's like a morally ambiguous ally. I'm actually I'm wondering if the person who was responsible for the state of the world in Horizon in the game series is going to show. Like, my theory is that person isn't dead and he's going to show up.
I have some theories about that as well, which I won't go into, but I'm excited. I just the lore. I can't wait to search all the like little details, and like one of my favorite things in the first game was just like finding the ancient old world relics like mugs and CDs, and how the modern humans interpret those as completely different things because they don't have any context for what they actually are, and then you are like, that's a mug.
Yeah.
And then in the game it's like, this was an old times ritual vessel. Like, no, it's not. It's a coffee mug. But it's great. It's great. Like, Rachel, I know that you don't exactly play games, but if you want to like ever get like let's play experience, I would watch some let's play material from Horizon.
If there's
Zero
real
Dawn.
archaeology in it, I'd do that.
There's not real archaeology. I mean, I could, because I've been wanting to I replayed it at the beginning of 2020 because I wanted to get the ultra hard achievement, which I did. I did do that with the New Game Plus. But I've been kind of wanting to replay it. So maybe at some point, Rachel, if you're interested, I could stream it on Twitch and you could watch, and you could you could hear me go, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Oh, shit.
Basically, I would watch that as well. I would watch that as well, and I would also judge you for all your choices. Like, no, not like that.
I mean, I would do it. I would stream it in a way that doesn't show my face because I don't feel like trying to hook up my PS4 to like show my face because I don't have a camera for it. But I would do like audio, like I said, where you could hear me say like, oh shit, there's a Thunderjack here. Oh shit, I'm not high enough level for this.
Oh my god, Thunderjacks are awful.
Well,
but my least favorite enemy in that game are the freaking bears in the DLC.
Oh, the bears
are awful.
There's
like robotic bears that like
you fire or spew ice.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah, no, I'd rather deal with a Thunderjaw because with Thunderjaws, what you do is you keep running, you shoot the arrows that like have the compressed air that will shoot off parts. So you do that and you get the gun, one of their guns, and then you shoot it with their gun, and then you keep running and do it with the other. Like, I can do Thunderjaws. The bears, like, I did not do the Frozen Wilds DLC when I was doing the ultra hard playthrough because I'm like, It is not worth it.
Yeah, the bears, like, I remember because me and partner played it, and partner was doing the boss bear battle, and he was just constantly getting riled up. He was like, I freaking hate this bear, this goddamn bear, like, ah! And we died, like, I think around 10 times before we finally managed to kill it.
Yeah. One thing I do love about the Frozen Wilds DLC is the fact that they, like, the woman who oversees the hunting grounds there, like, they basically just like copy pasted Jennifer Hale's face onto the character. It's like, oh, hey, you're voicing this character. We're just gonna like make it your face.
I mean, if you can.
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of like modeling a character after their voice, have you seen the actress who Lady Dimitrescu was mocapped after?
No.
Yeah, she did Lady Dimitrescu cosplay, and there are pictures of her in Lady Dimitrescu cosplay, and I'm like, it's so great.
I have no interest in playing that because, like, I'm not super into like spooky games, but I love the aesthetic of Lady Dimitrescu.
Yeah, me. I'm never going to play a Resident Evil game, but I love the character design and I love the memes.
Yeah. Rachel, I don't know if you've seen it, but she is a very tall, very pale lady with a giant hat.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
She's an antagonist in the new Resident Evil game, and basically when her design, because she's like super vintage, I think Karolina Zebrovskaya did a video about her. And like reviewing her outfits and like talking about the inspiration, because she's the type of meme mom who does that. And meme mom. But yeah, like her whole aesthetic is super like, it's iconic. The whole internet went completely nuts over her. Basically, people were like
Step on
like
me.
Yeah, Step on Me Vampire Mom became a meme.
Is it just me, or is like CostTube going to ruin our enjoyment of so many things with historical dress? We're just going to watch them and be like, somebody needs to break down this dress to see if it's historically accurate. It's all I can think about now.
Yes. Yes.
I can't watch a period drama without thinking, no woman would ever have her hair down like that.
I mean, I was already thinking when I was listening to the Vampire Knitting Club books, and the character of Silence is mentioned, and every time there's even a slight talk of her corset, and I'm like, well, at least the author is not completely corset shaming.
There's a bit, I think it's in book 6, where it's like, and I think that Silence, like, she still dresses like a Victorian lady, and I suspect she might even still wear corsets. And I'm like, well, no, Shiitake Sherlock, if she's wearing Victorian dress, she's going to be wearing the proper undergarments. Come on.
Yeah, to get the proper shape. Also, if you haven't ever heard of CostTube, it is the site of YouTube which is all about costuming, cosplay, and especially like historical costuming. And highly recommend. There's some really good creators. My personal favorites right now, aside from the obvious Bernadette Banner, are like Nicole Rudolph,
It was amazing.
Morgan Dunner, Kat's Costumery. Like, there's a lot. I really enjoyed them. Engineering Knits also sometimes, because
Engineering Knits. Mariah Patty is also really good.
Yes, Mariah Patty is fun because she does like modernization of historical clothing.
Yeah, she's really interested in like creating an actual like functional wardrobe of things that are comfortable, and like, you know, she's really into patterning.
Yeah,
which is
I really love her work. And also Sostein. Anything Sostein does is like,
yes.
Also,
gosh darn, I want a kefta so bad now.
Also, I am so jealous of her embroidery machine and her embroidery skills in general, because damn, I want an embroidery machine.
She really, really makes me want to have like a robe à la française and a kefta. And,
Oh man,
yeah.
Becca, I saw that you made an update on that on Goodreads where you had quoted the thing like it wasn't the first hat that caused the revolution and it wouldn't be the last, and that was the moment where I put this dress codes how the laws of fashion made history on my want to read, because I was just like, okay, sign me up. Sign me up for that.
Oh, shoot.
I haven't been counting my rows in a while now.
I just realized I did a cable twist in the wrong direction 3 rows ago.
Oh no.
No!
It's okay. It's okay.
Do you need to like rip apart the whole 3 rows?
It's only 6 stitches, so I have to just rip it back and reknit the section on a DPN. I hate doing this. So I want to concentrate on this and not talk for a moment. Sorry.
That's why it was so good that we were talking about all those games.
Quick, somebody talk about Star Wars.
So did you see the J.J. Abrams thing where I would have been good if we went to the Star Wars sequel trilogy with a plan? And I was like, no shit!
Yeah, that's okay. So here's the thing. That is less on J.J. Abrams and more on Lucasfilm, because from what I understand, he actually like had written out something. It's like, here are some things I think would be good to do in episode 8. And Rian Johnson is like, TFA? I don't know her. Character development for the characters of color? I don't know that. And did his own thing and focused entirely on the white guys to the detriment of everyone else in the story, because Rian Johnson doesn't give a fuck about anyone but white dudes. Anyway, and then J.J. Abrams, who wasn't even supposed to be doing episode 9, had to step in because Lucasfilm was like, oh, wait, maybe we shouldn't have hired Colin Trevorrow after all. Yeah, so
What did he do?
He had written Jurassic World, which was a train wreck. That movie was not good at all.
Oh, really? Jurassic World wasn't good? Color me surprised.
Okay, so here's the thing. I love Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park is one of my favorite movies, and Jurassic World is just a misogynistic shit show.
I mean, me and partner watched Jurassic World, and I was like, okay, there are things that I enjoy. This idea of like having the park as a functioning thing, and oh my god, the part where they are showing the pony ride, but with the Triceratops, and I was like, oh my god, that would so happen. There so would be a pony ride with baby Triceratops. Mm-hmm. That would happen. But everything to do with Chris Pratt, I was like, yeah,
it was. Anyway, it was, and then he released the Book of Henry, which was very bad. And I
okay, he did that. I haven't seen it, but I saw Folding Ideas breakdown of why that was just so bizarrely bad, and I was like, somebody paid money to make that?
Anyway, so they ended up firing him and bringing JJ back. So like, I understand people don't like what happened in Rise of Skywalker, but like J.J. Abrams wasn't supposed to be doing, like, for me at least, a lot of like the weird shit with the sequel trilogy is very much like, it's for me more on Lucasfilm than it is on J.J. because Lucasfilm should have been more firm with, you know, these are the plot points that we want, this is who the characters are and what we want. Because, like, for better or for worse, that's what Marvel does. And Marvel has a more firm understanding of, like, where they're going. And I think with Star Wars, it was like, well, George Lucas winged it. Let's just do that. And it was like, but it was one person who had that creative vision, again, for better or for worse.
He was never particularly good, was he?
So here's the thing, I love the prequels, and part of it is it's very much like, I think he needed like someone to redo the dialogue, and needed someone to help him with direction. But I think the story the prequels told is very good, because it's very focused on, this is how someone who starts out as like this bright, happy 9-year-old becomes Darth Vader. Like that was always the story. That was always the focus of the prequel trilogy. And it was also explaining how this is how a republic comes at tyrannical government.
And there's also the thing that with the original trilogy, like George Lucas wrote it, but there was like a bunch of other people who did the directing and stuff. And who were also like going over the creative process with him.
Yeah, and like even with A New Hope, which was the one he had like the most creative control over, like his wife Marcia at the time did the editing, and she is the one who is like now credited with a lot of like the pacing decisions and like the moments of humor. So like George Lucas definitely needed someone to like help interpret his vision, but I think in terms of like the continuity of that vision, the prequel trilogy was very good for that. So yeah, like I said, I'm less angry at J.J. Abrams for like he's just honestly voicing the quiet part aloud. Like we all knew that there was no plan, and now he's saying it.
The eyes are in.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, he's probably just saying what we're all thinking.
Anyway, I am glad that the films are at least taking a bit of a break, although I would like for there to be less Dave Filoni controlling things, because like I was saying earlier, Dave Filoni definitely Dave Filoni has reached like George Lucas, where he like needs someone to like be like, no, Dave, that's enough.
Shall this be a happy bee or a sassy bee?
Sassy.
Okay.
Actually, one thing I do need to keep going on is watching Star Trek: The Next Generation. I'm in early season 2 and it's still not good. Like, I know TNG gets better, but like the first 2 seasons are.
I mean, I wish
episodes of garbage first.
I wish I could tell you that it gets better in the second season, but unfortunately, the best episodes come in the after the third one.
I know.
In my opinion.
Oh my God. Okay, is TNG on Amazon Prime?
It might be.
It might be. It's on Nordic Netflix.
It's on American Netflix too.
So if you have a VPN, you can.
Yeah, no, I'm just
watch
thinking,
it.
I should totally do a TNG rewatch with my parents. And they have Prime. They mostly use Prime for their TV watching. We're almost done watching Time Team. We're on season 17 out of 20. And we watch about 4 to 6 of them per week. So I'm like, what can we watch when we're done with that? Yes, I go over to my parents' house and we have knit night multiple times a week. There's nothing else to do right now. So.
That is great. I wish I could do that with my parents. But also, I don't want to knit in the same room as my mom, because my mom is a knitting machine and I get incredibly frustrated when I'm just going like, And
my dad just bangs out sock after sock after sock that actually fits. And then I show up with my pretty lace socks and I'm like, I mean, they look nice, but they don't really fit.
I mean, my mom watches Bold and the Beautiful, the soap opera.
Yeah.
And an episode of Bold and the Beautiful is like 30 minutes. My mom whips out a sock in the span of an episode that fits me perfectly. and it's annoying. She does color blocking and color shifts and like little like lace details and stuff. Lately, she's been into like these puff stitches, and I'm like, how do you do that? And she's like, well, I've been knitting since I was 7 years old, so
I just can.
And meanwhile, I'm just like, Mom, finish my other sock. I'm having second sock syndrome.
Yeah, this is why I don't knit socks.
This is why I'll just stick with sweaters.
Yeah, I'm thinking that I should probably like do my ranunculus sweater at some point.
So my problem is with sweaters is they are very expensive for me because I am not tiny.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of like I can't like for me it's either like hat or shawls or stuff or like blankets because I can do blankets using like knit picks. So
and like I am perfectly happy to do like I'll do shawls, I'll do blankets with acrylic. Get some nice acrylic yarn and it's cheap and durable. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, sweaters are just kind of like a once in a blue moon because it is over $100, like getting closer to $200 worth of yarn to do one.
Same.
I just began a shawl the other night that I realized is $120, and that was the moment where I was like, this hobby might be a little bit out of hand.
I mean, I've been just like because I should probably tell you that I graduated. Or rather, I am graduating. I put in the thing where I am applying for my diploma. So all my courses, all the thesis work, everything is done. It is done. I just need my paper and then I'm out.
Yay.
Which, as you know, has been one of the greatest sources of distress for me this past year has been like, I need to graduate.
You got through it though. I mean, you were quite productive in a really terrible year, so that
it was
proud of.
That was a lot. I never want to do this again. But as I am graduating, I can now finally shift gears to like full on job hunting. And once I get a job, I will be putting a pretty significant amount of monthly income towards my hobbies, which include getting yarn.
So that's the other thing is I just bought a car. So
what kind?
I got a Subaru Impreza hatchback, and I actually ended up getting a new car because it was finding a used car right now is a pain in the ass, and also Subaru was having a deal where like I don't have to pay interest as long as I pay it off in like a little over 5 years.
That's nice.
But
That's
so,
really
but it's like including insurance, I'm paying like a little over $400 a month for it. So like that's cutting it like significantly into my disposable income. So I'm just like, okay, so I need to cut down on like eating out. I need to cut down on books, which doesn't help the fact. Well, I did sell a lot of books for like over $100 worth of credit at my used bookstore. So I did buy books using that credit. But
do you have like the thing where you have to put like a certain amount of money per month on like things like car maintenance and stuff?
So I have a warranty that I think is like 7 years. So that will help with like some of the maintenance costs, but I'm also just like, I try and save like $200 a month for like my slush fund. That's how I refer to it. It's like for things like this month, I'm going to be dipping into it because I have to renew my passport, and that's $140 some odd dollars for that. Or like if I have a big vet fee that I need to pay, then that's what I dip into. Like that's for me, like what I use my savings for is for big expenses. Or like if I'm buying a plane ticket or something.
Or like me going to a furniture store and saying, I'm going to buy a couple of armchairs, and then finding out how expensive furniture is.
Furniture is so expensive.
Yeah, the only reason I bought some bookcases was my grandparents had given me some money. And I like after using it for like the car rental and gas for my drive back up, I had money left over, so I used it just to buy some bookshelves.
Okay. The face is done.
But yeah, furniture is very expensive, and I'm trying to make my furniture last for several years because I'm hoping to have my car for like 15 to 20. Like that's the reason I bought a Subaru, is because they have a reputation for like, if you take good care, they last for a very long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm like, I want a car that I won't have to worry about replacing in a long time.
Yeah, that's also why we got a Prius. Because it lasts, and also because it's a hybrid, it doesn't take too much like in terms of gas, because you can just like load it with electricity.
Yeah, I don't do a whole lot of driving. Like I'll do short trips around town, and like once we're back working on campus, I'll be taking the bus in again, just because I don't live super far away from where I work, and also finding parking on campus is a knife fight. And I also don't want to have to pay for a parking permit. And so like if I can just take the bus, I am going to take the bus. So I don't like, I'm not going to be putting a ton of mileage on it unless I do things like drive to Seattle for a weekend or something.
I'm like that makes sense. Like for example, like I just like the relative sense of like independence that comes with a car. Especially now, because I'm somewhat anxious about taking public transportation, especially since people don't wear their masks.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's part of it. And also for things like if I need to take the cats to the vet, for example, like previously I either like rent a car, or my friends with a car would drive me, and now I can just take them, which is really nice. Or if I have like a big grocery shopping trip that I need to do, or if I really don't want to go to the grocery store and I just want to do pickup.
Yeah, that makes sense. I also just like that with a car, we can, in theory, drive to visit my parents. Yeah. In theory, because I actually, like, in the time that we've had the car, I don't think we have actually done a trip, for example, to visit my dad once.
Well, I'm hoping to maybe drive up to Seattle at some point, because so there's a company in Seattle that does hot tub boats. So it's like little boats that go like 5 miles per hour, but they're hot tubs. And my friend Megan discovered this, and she's like, Diana, I'm like so close to booking a trip to Seattle so we can do this. I'm like, yes, let it, like, she's job hunting right now. So it's like, if you get this job, we are 110% planning this out, because like I desperately, like now that I know that this is a thing, I desperately need it in my life.
What, hot tub? Oh my God. That's like the same concept as the portable saunas that I've seen, which are I've seen in Finland. There have been people who have like put saunas in the back of like a camper van, and then they just drive around and park it somewhere and take a sauna. And it's like, that's amazing.
But yeah, Seattle's like a 4-hour drive, like, yeah, 3.5, 4-hour drive. So it's like not terrible. I mean, granted, my sense of like what's a reasonable drive is like, it should be noted that I drove 10.5 hours to get to my grandparents in one day. So like not a terrible drive, all things considered.
4 hours, if you're going to be spending multiple days wherever you're going, that's easy peasy.
I mean, to be fair, my view of like what is a reasonable drive is also influenced by the fact that like my family was like, oh, hey, the basketball team we like is having a playoff game in LA. Let us get up early, drive down to LA, see the game, go to sleep, and then drive back. And that's like a 6-7 hour drive from where we.
Yeah, no. I live in a small country, and my butt gets tired after a 3-hour drive. I'm like, I like every time some of my friends like you talk about these cross country drives that last over 10 hours. I'm like, no.
10 hours doesn't even get me across. 10 hours if I'm going west or going east. Maybe that might get me to Utah that might get me to Utah or Idaho.
From what I've heard, you don't want to take breaks in Utah.
Utah is what it is. It's this. I would honestly rather drive through Utah just because, like, at least the scenery is nice than the time that I drove through Kansas. Kansas is like, and I apologize to anyone if you're in the chat who live in Kansas or the Midwest, but driving through Kansas is like driving through a liminal state because we were driving at night and because it's so flat, we could see the lights of like the gas stop or the next town, but it took us so long to get closer. And so it was like time was distorting.
I've heard that from multiple people who've driven through Kansas.
Well, yeah, because it was Megan, my friend who discovered the hot tub boats. She was moving out to Colorado for a job, and she was like, Diana, do you want to help me because I'm going to be driving out there? And I'm like, you know what? I have enough vacation. I can take a couple of days, drive out with you, fly back. And like, it was very fun, but also driving through Kansas was a mindfuck.
I mean, the only time I've ever seen anyone drive through Kansas was when I watched the movie Horse Whisperer with Robert Redford, and they drive through several of these states where there's only like pastures, and there's nothing else but like pastures and fields.
Not
as
even
far
pastures.
As the mind.
It's just corn and soybeans. Corn and soybeans. You want wheat? Wrong state for that. Corn, soybeans.
I mean, and at least like, so I've driven, California, we normally, like if we were going down to LA, we would do I-5. And like the Central Valley is very boring, but at least you can see like mountains on either side. And it's like different types of agriculture. Like you'll have some like trees or you'll have different plants. And then, and everything smells like cow shit. But yeah,
what a nostalgic smell that is.
I think
that's what I love about Finland.
Stockyards from within like 200 miles of any place that people actually want to go. I just, it's gross.
That's what I love about Finland. Even when you smell cow shit outside, it's usually for a short while because all the distances are so short.
Yeah, no, so where I grew up, it was a university town, but the university was known for its agriculture school. And so like if the wind blew the wrong way on certain days,
yeah,
like cow shit.
Oh. Yeah, so when we were taking Hedda to the vet, there was this thing that happened where one of the vets was this university animal hospital, which is basically like it's an agricultural university as well. It's in the middle of the capital city, which is interesting. But you drive there and it's just like horse and cow dung smell everywhere, and all the students walking around in like overalls.
Yep.
Should we talk about things that we are interested in that are coming in the next?
Oh Oh my, you're gonna make me use my brain.
I actually do have some things that. So I'm looking forward to The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. That's coming out in a couple of weeks. Also The Chosen and the Beautiful by Nevo.
Yeah.
That's the fantasy queer Asian.
Great Gatsby retelling.
Yeah, it's the Gatsby one. So I'm looking forward to those two. And then there's also the next wave of the Star Wars High Republic books are starting to come out at the end of the month or at the end of June. And so those all sound really interesting. And I'm debating, do I order like the Target version or do I order the out of print version, like from the out of print store, because they both have different covers and I like both of them, but I can't decide which one I want. And I'm not allowing myself to buy both of them because that would be too much money spent.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also in the camp that wants Jasmine Throne. And there's also like I don't remember what book it is. Was it The Ravenous Tide or something, or has it already come out? But there are a bunch of like sapphic titles aside from Jasmine Throne that are coming out.
Yeah, there's
because Pride Month and everything. So
yeah, I know. I think She Who Became the Sun is coming out in July, and that's the sapphic Chinese inspired fantasy.
Oh yeah.
Bubby, what do you want?
I have a cat under my chair. Do you want to come and say hi? There hasn't been much cat content here.
Oh no.
Oh, come here. Come here.
Got him. Oh, 2 voids.
It's the Void Boys. They can start up a band together.
Oh, you're so sweet. Oh, you got eye boogers, Bubby.
Okay.
Like how?
The one book that I know I'm really looking forward to in June is Witness for the Dead.
Oh shit!
And I
Oh,
really
yeah.
need
I
to
really
read
want
The Goblin
that.
Emperor.
Also, I really need to pre-order it.
Yeah, I've had my pre-order for a while.
My problem is that I want to get the version of the Goblin Emperor that matches, but I'm also just like, Diana, you should not be spending that much money on books.
I mean, yeah, but I also just want to pre-order it just so I can get the short story that Simon & Schuster is like thinking. Natalie asks, if you all could pick a sci-fi novel and fantasy novel to be made into a motion picture in 2022, what would you suggest? For me personally, one science fiction thing that, first of all, I think would make a great movie, and I just would want to see it, is the Semiosis duology by Sue Berg. I just think that would make an interesting movie in terms of how they would do the whole intelligent plant life, how would, especially in the earlier scenes where the plant can't communicate with the humans yet. So that would be
multiple really interesting communication methods that would be interesting to see how they would translate that to the screen. Yeah.
Also, I would be so interested to see how they would translate the glass makers. Into the screen, like how they would look like, because I kind of feel that they are sort of like mantis-like.
I always think of them as like a hybrid between like those shield-shaped stink bugs and a praying mantis.
Yeah, I'm thinking more like ants and praying mantis. But it's interesting how differently people can read the same description and get the entirely different ideas of how a thing might look like. But I mean, considering they use scent and pheromones as a way to communicate, the stink bug makes sense also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, that would be mine.
I totally have answers for this question, by the way. I don't usually read books and think, oh, I want a movie version out of this, but there are some that are just really cinematic in my head. I want one of Adrian Tchaikovsky's really chunky sci-fi novels to be adapted. I mean, Children of Time would be awesome, but I think probably his more recent one, The Doors of Eden, would be like, that is pretty much perfect for a crazy sci-fi movie.
I'm also thinking like Amari and the Night Brothers, which I just recently read, would make just such a good like children's movie, because there's so much like wacky visual interesting things in that. So I think that would make such an, and I think it's also like it is getting a movie adaptation. I think B.B. Alston has already sold rights at least to
I try not to get excited
adapted.
about anything until they say it's actually in production.
Yeah, me neither. But considering the rights have been sold there, it is at least a possibility.
Yeah. And then
I have yarn in my
fantasy,
mouth.
I have two. One might actually happen. But okay, so I read A Master of Jen by P. Djeli Clark, and I think that would make a wonderful movie. The visuals are already there. The characters are already there. It would be fantastic translated to the screen. But also, Gail Carriger has recently sold the rights to an animated version of the Parasolverse.
What?
Yes. Which I think she's been saying for years that would be the best shot of ever having it actually adapted to have it animated, because it would be so high budget otherwise.
Considering that the Parasol Protectorate already got a manga adaptation, seeing an anime adaptation would make perfect sense.
Yeah.
Or if you think about that, Castlevania was just recently finished, and it was done by a US studio. So, like having a high production value like 2D animation in the United States as well isn't as far-fetched as it would have been in, like, say, 5 years ago.
Yeah. And I would just love to see how they translated Lord Akaldama to the screen. And all the clothes. What Ivy's hats.
I mean, am I the only person who just, like, when I pictured Ivy's hats, I was like, yeah, I would wear that. I mean, I would
every
wear
day
that.
or for cosplay.
I mean, considering the skull fascinator that I made, I would wear all kinds of hats. I still have the plan to make like the Marie Antoinette hat with the ship, and have the ship have like a smoke machine inside it, and also like play music, and like have those kinds of like glow in the dark or UV colored sails, so that when we're in the dark it would look like a ghost ship. I still want to make that. I just don't want to like program the microcontrollers. Like, it's tedious.
I think for me, my choices would be the Dream Blood duology by N.K. Jemisin.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think out of all of her, because I know the 5th season is, last I heard, still under development, but I think that one would work really well as like a big screen, like a movie series or like a limited mini series, just because it's much more self-contained. So I think that would work really well. And then I would say, if I'm going for like more younger animated, I would honestly love to see the Ari Shaw books as like an animated kids series, because I think that would work out really well. I think the visuals would translate really well, and I think it would be something pretty different.
I think I would enjoy that more as like kids television than the books.
Yeah. Joe just said animated Vorkosigan series, and yeah, Vorkosigan series is also just kind of like something that I would love to see.
I get precious about things that I love too much. I'm like, do I really want Vorkosigan to make it to the big screen? No, I just want the version inside my head.
I just generally want people to understand that animation can be a really good way for telling like adult stories as well. And I just, like, for example, like now having seen game, like I still maintain that an anime adaptation similar to the 1997 version of Berserk would have been the perfect way to adapt A Song of Ice and Fire. Like it would have been the perfect way to do it. Instead, we gave it to two assholes and look what they did. Wait, 1 decrease, 1 decrease, okay. I'm like almost losing it here with this.
Do we want to start wrapping up? I need to probably go in a little bit, so.
Yeah, and I need to eat.
Yeah,
I'm sorry to.
yeah, let's do that considering it is 10 to 11 p.m. over here in the future where I am. So, and we have almost been here for 2 hours. What's coming on everyone's channel? Like what, or rather, okay, what books are you excited to be reading next month? And what's coming up on the channels?
Well, I sort of filmed a review of Master of Jin, and when I'm done here, I gotta watch my footage back to see if it was terrible or not. If it came out good, there'll probably be a review video up tomorrow. I may have to refilm it. Never give yourself 20 minutes to film about a book that you really, really wanted to talk for like an hour about.
Yeah.
So we'll see if it can be salvaged. And then after that, I will have my TBR for Translate-a-thon, which is Rhea's thing. Yeah.
It's my thing.
So yeah, that's what I'll be reading in June. Is I got a whole stack of translated stuff I want to get to. I'm also like suddenly really in the mood to just blast through a couple of the shorter SF masterworks that I have. I haven't been in the mood for, golden age sci-fi in a while, and I'm like, I can do it. So I'll probably just get through another 2 or 3 of those in the next week or so. Maybe I'll do a wrap up for that reading project finally after like a year of not doing anything.
Yeah.
I am probably I'm gonna have my May wrap up, and then at some point I do need to actually start that Hugo's reading vlog that I was talking about last month, which I haven't started yet because I got distracted, but I'm hoping to read Alatsoe, Cemetery Boys, and The Unspoken Name next month, and then also finally reading Aetherbound, which came out, and it's so pretty.
Yes.
The Fisher King meets Jupiter Ascending meets the collapse of the cod fisheries.
Nice.
Okay, please read it and review it so I can know more.
This is one I am planning on reviewing. I haven't decided if I'm going to read it physically or listen to the audiobook, because Ashley Eckstein, who is the voice of Ahsoka, did the audiobook, and I couldn't decide which version I wanted, so I pre-ordered it using my Libro FM credit, and also got a physical copy. And I started reading the first bit, and it's very much oh yeah, this definitely some of the world building is the collapse of the cod fishery in Newfoundland. And then I kind of went on listening to Celtic music or maritime music spiral, because that's who I am.
I mean, that sounds perfectly valid.
Yeah. But yeah, this is the one that I'm prioritize. I'm probably not going to read it this weekend just because I'm trying to finish either Dial A for Aunties or We Hunt the Flame, but I'm prioritizing this for June.
So I am hoping in the upcoming month to at least start on the Lightship Traders trilogy by Robin Hobb, which I have been putting off for quite some time. And basically, I have my Translate-a-thon TBR coming soon. Translate-a-thon is a readathon that I am hosting. It starts on the 14th of June. It lasts for 2 weeks, and it's all about reading translated books. So it's gonna be fun. I hope everyone who hasn't heard about it yet will join and read some translated books and translated nonfiction and essays and everything translated, because world doesn't revolve around Anglophones. Sorry.
Also, there will be live show reading sprints, which
Yes.
I look forward to because they're very effective.
Yes, I have been really enjoying. Oh man, I did a mistake.
Oh no.
I accidentally started decreasing this bot, and now I'm not sure if I will be able to stop it. Well, that's a problem for Rhea after the live stream.
At least it'll be very easy to rip out and redo if you need to.
That is true. This is how it looks like hollow.
Our sassy bee.
It's a sassy bee. So yeah, that's basically it for us. Any last words before we call it quits for today? Are we on Rachel's or Bree's channel next month? Possibly Rachel's.
I don't know. We changed our schedule with this month and I'm completely confused.
I mean, if Bree can do it, it would probably be better for Bree to host next month, considering.
Yeah. I usually come after Bree, but we'll decide between the two of us, I guess.
We'll decide, and you will hopefully get more than 3 hours notice. But then again, we are always very spontaneous with these things, so
Yeah.
I
you
forgot.
will know
I
when we
swear,
know.
I forgot. But in my defense, I was running around at cemeteries this morning, and then I saw the Twitter DMs. And I was like, "Oh my god, I forgot. We should have put out."
I mean, but
More
also you will know when we know.
Yep.
So see you next time.
And if you're in the US, enjoy the rest of your long Memorial Day weekend.
Yes.
I know.
And if you're in Finland or in like the Eastern European time slot, go to sleep.
Yes.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.